Hello everyone, I am Steve Campbell, Director of the Scenic Regional Library. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's candidate forum. First, I would like to thank the Washington Public Library for allowing us to use their space for this great event tonight. The moderators for tonight's forum will be Scenic Regional Library's Assistant Director Megan Maurer, right here, and also the Managing Editor of the Missourian, John Riley, right here. We've partnered with Missourian, also known as Missouri Media Group, present this candidate forum tonight. We had one, if you might recall, earlier this month on July 8th in Union, and we had two other races that were at that forum. This event tonight is being live streamed on social media. It is not being live streamed on the Scenic Regional Library's Union branch page. The Scenic Regional Library has a main Facebook page, and that's where the stream will actually be running live right now. It's also going to be archived and placed on YouTube after this event. It probably will be ready sometime tomorrow, we're hoping, and it will be on YouTube, and we'll share that on our social media pages for all our branches, as well as the Missourians page as well will have that. So people can go back and watch that later. They can share it with their friends. We're hoping to get this event to have as much exposure as possible. Our first race tonight is going to be for the District 109 Missouri House of Representatives seat between incumbent Kyle Marquardt and challenger John Simmons, who are both running in the Republican primary. Once that is complete, we will have the second group of candidates will come up, and that will be for the Republican primary for the Franklin County 1st District Commissioner seat, and that will be from between challenger Paul Overschmidt and incumbent Commissioner Todd Boland. We did receive some complaints for not inviting Democratic candidates to this forum tonight, and also the one in Union on the 8th. We decided to have the forums for competitive primary races in the county. We have never done this before, other than for a school board race in St. Clair, so this is a first-time experience for us. The Democratic candidates are unopposed in their primary races. So we are certainly open to hosting a forum or a debate in the fall between the Democratic and Republican candidates for all of these races, if all the candidates are willing to do it. The libraries and the Missourian are nonpartisan. We certainly are not favoring the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. Those just happen to be where the competitive races were in our county. Each candidate will begin with a 2-minute opening statement. They will also then have 2 minutes to answer each question. We have 10 questions for each race. Then they will have 2 minutes at the end for a closing statement. The moderator who is not asking the question will serve as the timekeeper, and we have a yellow card here that shows the candidates when there's 30 seconds left, and then it'll be flipped and it will show a red card when time's up. So we have a phone here, we're managing the time here at the table. The questions tonight, as you might have seen our advertising for this event, were accepted in advance from the public. This is not a town hall. I apologize to anyone who came here tonight thinking that they were going to get to ask questions. I know there are other events, the Chambers, and I know East Central College had an event. I don't know the formats of those. They might have been open like that. That's just not the way we're doing it. We really just have time to ask the 10 questions. We received many questions, so we were really having to whittle those down, especially for the state representative race. We received a lot of questions, so these are the 10 we've selected. If we had questions that were just directed at one specific candidate, we threw that out because we really need, with the way this format is set up, to ask questions that both candidates can answer. So if it was a question specifically about one candidate, it wasn't really something that we could use in our format here tonight at least. Let's see what else. We also combined a lot of questions. So if there were similar questions, we combined those into a single question on the same topic. The candidates will be available afterwards, so if you have other questions for them, you are more than welcome to approach them after the event and talk to them and ask them the questions, ask multiple candidates the questions tonight. So don't feel like you can't still ask those questions of the candidates. Please silence your phones. We ask that no one in the audience talk during the forum. Our audio is very sensitive for our live stream and our recording. There's a lot of chatter in the crowd. It's going to kind of mess with our audio. We would greatly appreciate it. And I think that is all our housekeeping. Candidates, good luck. And we will have our state representative candidates come up first.
All right, gentlemen, We will first begin with a 2-minute introduction. Representative Marquardt, you have the floor.
Good evening. What a crowd. I want to thank the libraries, Washington Public and the Scenic Regional, along with the Missourian for hosting this forum. My name is Kyle Marquardt. I'm your state representative for District 109. I was born and raised here in Washington and spent over 33 years on the Highway Patrol, retiring as a captain after commanding our Division of Drug and Crime Control. I own a successful small business, Van Zant Seasoning. I'm married to an amazing wife and friend, Erin, which many of you have met. Combined, we have 5 children. My daughter and her husband are currently in the Navy. My son-in-law is currently deployed in Japan. My youngest son and wife are both police officers, and he also flies the Black Hawk helicopter for the National Guard. We have a combined 9 grandchildren. I started this journey to be a state representative a couple of years ago. Looking at the atmosphere of the political climate, it was a mess. We had wackadoodles on the left and we had wackadoodles on the right. I questioned, why can't we just get a normal, everyday person in there with some common sense? I was in a position, being retired and at the right time of my life, that I couldn't figure out a reason why that I should not run. So I threw my name in the hat. I could sit around and complain, or I could try to do something about it. So here I am. I suspect many of you are here with all the negative ads and campaigning running against me recently. Just to let you know, those are lies, deception, and misinformation. Hopefully some of the issues will be addressed here today, but if not, you need additional answers and clarifications, call me, please. Ask me your questions so you can get some honest information. I have cards in the back with my telephone number on it, so don't hesitate to give me a call. Thank you guys for being here, and I just want to point out my endorsements because we're not going to have a chance any other time. I have the Fraternal Order of Police endorsing me, the the NRA, the Cattlemen's Association, and the MSTA, and my time's up. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Marquardt. Mr. Simmons?
Thank you for hosting this forum. I'm John Simmons, local chiropractic physician, boys and girls soccer coach at St. Francis Borgia High School, Washington Rotary member, volunteer at various organizations, and St. Gertrude parishioner. I married Nancy Meyer, who's in the audience, who is the daughter of Joan Lay, originally from the St. John Guilderhouse area, and George Meyer from the St. Francis Borgia Parish. We are blessed with 3 children, oldest son Reagan, named after President Reagan, daughter Madison, named after President Madison, the father of our Constitution, and we couldn't decide on another presidential name, so we went with the biblical name for our youngest son Noah, which is very fitting because he just graduated from Mizzou with a degree as a meteorologist. I served as your state representative for District 109 for 2 terms, 4 years, and I want to build on that great success of those 4 years, which included I co-sponsored a historic pro-life bill in 2019, one of only 21 sponsors, which is why I'm the only candidate in this race to ever be endorsed by Missouri Right to Life twice. I co-sponsored a Second Amendment bill called Second Amendment Preservation Act to push back against the overreaching liberals in our federal government that want to whittle away at that constitutional right, which is why I have an A rating by the NRA, and when you're the incumbent, you get endorsed by the NRA, so we both have the A rating. Kyle's sitting in the seat, he gets the endorsement. The previous time that I was the state rep, I got the NRA endorsement. And you get a 100% rating by the Missouri Firearms Coalition, which is a state advocacy group. I helped push for and pass the largest tax cut in Missouri history. I was the chief sponsor of Photo ID Election Integrity Bill, which requires government-issued photo ID to vote, paper-only ballots, no drop boxes, and no Zuckerbucks, among other protections. And that legislation earned national recognition by the Foundation for Government Accountability in Florida and the America First Policy Institute, which is a group of advisors that used to advise President Trump in his first administration. Doesn't that all sound very common sense to you? Because it is. That's why I received the Franklin County Republican Central Committee exclusive endorsement. I want to continue that success and represent the values of this area. I ask for your vote.
All right, so the first question is start with Representative Marquardt. Currently, all 3 gubernatorial candidates have publicly stated that they support the elimination of Missouri's state income tax. Where do you stand on proposed changes to the Missouri state income tax, whether it be a complete elimination, a reduction, or an exemption for certain groups of people?
Well, taxes are an interesting topic, and a very important topic. Actually, I have voted to eliminate income tax on Social Security for seniors, so we're already working toward lowering the taxes and eliminating those taxes. And there are other measures that I support and I've been involved in the state legislature now of reducing taxes. You know, some guys are looking to reduce it all the way down. Now I say we don't want to cut taxes off immediately and say, hey, we're not charging any more taxes, because the state does need to have revenue to take care of the business that we need to take care of as a state. As a matter of fact, the Foundation for State Tax Collections, it's a national foundation that looks at state taxes within the United States. They have a rating for all taxes. So if you look at all taxes being collected per capita for individuals in the state of Missouri, we're actually rated at the 46th state in tax per capita per person. So you know, if we look at that, look at all the combined taxes that we pay, we are actually, I think, doing a pretty good job. And we can go to statetaxindex.org, would show those figures if somebody wants to look at that further. But of course, everybody's in favor of lower taxes. Lowering taxes actually increases the revenue in the state. So I'm for lowering taxes and doing it wisely and in a reasonable manner.
Thanks for your response, Representative Marquardt. So same question, Representative Simmons. Okay, you want me to repeat the question?
No, I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I actually have a record of cutting taxes. In 2022, the state of Missouri has received, over the last few years, excess revenue of $5 billion on average the last few years. And people up in the Capitol wanted to spend it all, just like they do in Congress in DC. Myself and several conservatives pushed in 2022 to get a tax cut out of that $5 billion. And so the tax rate for people in Missouri is down closer to 4% on that state income tax, rather than a little bit over 6% when I first got into office in 2019. So I have a proven record of cutting taxes, and it needs to go lower, because tax on income is a tax on production. And you get less of that when you actually disincentivize people, and that's what that particular tax does. So we can't tax production. You're actually taxing the work ethic of Missourians. We got to figure out what our priorities are, and then find out what's the bare minimum we have to tax the people. It's not just state income tax. You look at your utility bill, tax. You look at all the other monthly bills that come through. There's taxes everywhere you look. Sales tax. If you're a business owner, you have taxes related to that a lot of employees have no idea what employers pay in terms of taxes. So I'm a tax cutter. I've proven it on my platform. I propose taxing and reducing taxes and eliminating the tax for property on seniors and veterans. Because I said all the time when I go door to door and talk to people that are in their 80s, some in their 90s, they live in these houses for decades, they paid it off for decades. They're just renting that house to the government via the tax system. So we do have to have priorities. Once you figure out the priorities, then you can figure out what is the tax. But if we have that excess coming every year, that needs to be sent back into a different kind of tax rebate, tax reduction, whether it's a tax reduction on groceries or personal items or whatever it can be. But I'm always going to fight for tax cuts. I've done it before. When I get back in, I'll do that again for Missouri.
Thank you. Question number 2 will be directed to you, Mr. Simmons. A measure will potentially be placed on the ballot in November to legalize abortion in Missouri. If the measure were to pass, what do you believe the legislature's response should be?
I am pro-life, always been pro-life, and that's why, like I said earlier, Missouri Right to Life has endorsed me twice during my tenure. We fought for decades, the people that believe in life and protecting innocent life. We've worked for decades. A lot of people, worked a lot harder than me in organizing before I got here. And that's all gonna be gone if we're not careful. And I know there's a question later on about the IP reform that's connected to this. But we gotta be careful because that legislation, that ballot measure, there's always devil in the details. And they're gonna tell you one thing, but these outside groups spend a lot of money and try to get a ballot on the measure and then tell you it's gonna be one thing, but then when you actually read the fine print, it does another thing. And so we're a life state. We wanna protect innocent life. And I think the legislature, if it does pass, and God forbid if it does, then the legislature has to take up the mantle like they've been doing for decades and try to protect life, do what we can to educate the public, obviously still make some protections for life of the mother, and rape and incest, and make sure we're careful on language for those kinds of sensible things. But what they're proposing that's gonna be probably on the November ballot is gonna be bringing abortion on demand, it's gonna be late-term abortions, there's a lot of gray area on that, and if you're a pro-life person, we need to fight tooth and nail to educate the people, and that's a problem with these ballot initiatives. They don't go through the process of the legislature that debate it, people like yourselves coming and talking and analyzing it, and people pros and cons on the issue to discuss it and really enlighten the public on what's truly in that bill, what's in that proposal. So I'm praying that it doesn't get through. I'm praying that we protect innocent life. I'll always defend life, and that's my Christian values at stake there. And I hope Missouri stays a right to life state.
Thank you. Mr. Markwart, the question to you.
Yes, thank you. I am pro-life. I voted 100% pro-life in the legislature. I also know that I think the Republican Party has messed up. We, a couple of years ago, passed a bill, signed into law, saying absolutely no abortion other than with the life of the mother at stake. That's not a popular thing in at least in our district. I get several people, women, people I go to church with, women that I go to church with, telling me, I'm pro-life, but this rape and incest, you know, we need to have some exceptions. We need to do some common sense things. You know, what happens so often in the legislature is one side gets control and they go far, far to the right. And then the other side gets control and they go far, far to the left. And all we do is argue and fight about stuff all the time. If we take some little bit of thought process, and if we would, I feel like the initiative petition, we're going to be in trouble because of the rape and incest portion of that. If we as representatives, the legislature, would have had a little forethought and we could have passed something to allow for a couple more exceptions, we could have saved all the other lives that I think are going to be lost. What's going to happen in the petition that we're looking at, there's one line in that says, or for the mental health of the mother. So what that's going to do is they're going to broadcast or advertise that it is a completely pro-life bill or a certain term bill, but what's going to happen during that time is because of that one sentence, that's going to go all the way to term. So, out of time. Thank you.
All right, this next question is for Representative Markwart first. So, going back to some of what you guys were just talking about, do you support initiative petition reform? If so, how would you like to see it changed? And will your opinion be different if the abortion amendment were to pass in November, because it would make it more difficult to repeal?
Well, I am for initiative petition reform, and the initiative petition reform that we're looking at doesn't change how something gets on the ballot. What it changes is how it's passed through the ballot or through the election. And what that's looking at doing is it's having a concurrent majority of the state. What happens during these initiative petition campaigns are oftentimes what big money comes in from out of state They go to the large population areas, they get a measure that goes with 50% plus one, and then the measure passes. So to get it onto the ballot, we're going to use the same procedures to get it onto the ballot, but at the time that it's at the election, we're going to have a concurrent majority, which means 50% plus one, plus it passes in 50% plus one of the Senate districts, congressional districts in the state. So I am for the initiative petition reform in those manners.
Representative Simmons, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, so there's a couple issues. There's initiative petition reform for constitutional law, and there's initiative petition reform for statutory law. And what I'm concerned about is initiative petition for the constitutional law, because that's the bread and butter. That's what we're our guidepost for Missouri. And right now, if you look at our Missouri Constitution, it's about this thick. Probably can't see this at home watching, but our U.S. Constitution is very, very thin. And what we've been using is this constitutional initiative petition measure to actually put things in that are really statutory language. And the reason that's a difference is if it's an initiative petition for the Constitution, we always have to go back to the people to make slight little changes. That's why anything to do with bingo, you're gonna have to vote on that again because it's in the Constitution. Whereas statutory language, we as a legislature, year after year, can kind of look, tweak some things that are wrong with the bill, or some bad language or unforeseen issues with it. And that's a better way to do a lot of this legislation. But the IP reform is actually a priority for the Republican Party. The first one was photo ID bill. That's the one that I was passed when I first got into the legislature, served on the elections committee, and I was given that honor to pass the priority for the Republican Party. So the next priority for the Republicans was this IP reform, because as Kyle was mentioning, there are these outside groups that are coming in and spending a lot of money to oversee and kind of modify what the people of Missouri want. And so what we need to do is have more signatures from a greater area to get the ballot even approved, because right now, only the high population areas are getting the signatures. So you literally only need to go to maybe 6 or 7 counties in Missouri and get signatures from those groups, and all the rest of Missouri is ignored. And then the threshold to pass it is actually very limited too. And again, that low threshold, we get bad legislation, bad constitutional measures, and really there hasn't been a consensus of Missourians because they're able to kind of skirt the system the way it's set up. So we do need a higher threshold. I'm always in favor of that.
This next question will go first to you, Mr. Simmons. The Kansas City Chiefs and Royals' current lease at Arrowhead is set to expire in January 2031. In June, the Kansas legislature approved legislation to expand a state initiative program in an attempt to lure one or both teams from Kansas City. Would you support taxpayer subsidies to keep the teams in Missouri? If so, what do you say to Missourians on the St. Louis side of the state?
No, I'm not in favor of that. That's just a spiraling down competition to making sure that we're hurt, and everyday Missourians are hurt when you give these kinds of special treatments and special exemptions. And I'm just definitely not a fan of incentives or tax subsidies. Some tax credit programs, maybe make sense for job creation, other kinds of things. But a lot of them that are given to these billionaires. I love sports. Everyone who knows me, I'm a referee for soccer. I'm a coach. Go down to a lot of games in St. Louis. But the idea that we have to subsidize that, that's not a competition. That's not a competition we want to deal with. And I learned my lesson, because in 2019 there was a GM bill, they called it, where there's some similar incentives for the GM expansion in the Fenton area. Y'all remember GM in Fenton? What's there now? No more GM. And so I learned my lesson voting in favor of that, and that's the one regret vote I took, because my instinct was not to vote for that, like I said earlier, but some people thought that kind of convinced me, gave me some different information, and I was thinking with a different side of my brain, not my instinctual brain, and unfortunately I was right, but I cast that bad vote, really my only bad vote I would say in the 4 years I was there. So no, there's other ways that we can go around that. We can go ahead and make sure that we incentivize them in other ways, but that's not the way to go about it.
Mr. Marquardt, the question to you.
Well, thank you. You know, whenever we're doing tax incentives and things, we do take a chance on maybe losing the money or the team. Now, it'd be surprising if the Chiefs disappear or whatever, but oftentimes when you're looking at these tax incentives, you're exactly right. We need to look at those incentives and see, hey, what good will they do down the road? I would be in favor of making a tax incentive that once the Chiefs have made their money, once the state of Missouri has made their money, the taxes have been paid, maybe give some sort of a rebate. I'm not for giving them money up front and letting them do whatever they want. But keeping the Chiefs in Missouri is good for all Missourians. It's good for all businesses around the state. And you can look in St. Louis and look at the number of Kansas City Chiefs jerseys that are running around there. Do you want those Kansas City Chiefs jerseys to be representing a Kansas team or a Missouri team? So if we have to do something to identify or incentivize the Chiefs to stay in Missouri, well, I'm not opposed to it just so long as we don't do it up front. If we give some sort of a rebate after the teams have made their money, after the state has collected the taxes, and then we can go back and keep that money aside and then start doing a little bit of a rebate toward those things. But you know, we need to keep businesses in the state of Missouri, and that's one way to do it. And by golly, the Chiefs are somebody that's worth keeping.
All right, next question for Representative Marquardt. The Missouri legislature passed a gas tax in 2021, which will increase to 17 cents by July 2025. Do you support a repeal of the gas tax?
Well, the gas tax issue is somewhat familiar to me because working for the Highway Patrol, that's where most of the officers in the Highway Patrol get paid out of gas tax. Now, this 17-cent increase, when it was coming about, I was not for that, mainly because I didn't like the way they presented it. And I don't like the way they say they aren't collecting a tax, they're collecting a fee and you can get a rebate on it. Now, to me, it's kind of smoke and mirrors. However, it's a tax that we need, it's money that we need to be able to keep our roads and bridges and improve our highways. We're looking for Highway 47 and Highway 100, improvements there. We're looking for money for the intersections there. We need to get that money from somewhere. Talking about repealing that gas tax, I've been up there for 2 years and haven't seen one bill come across my desk that says, hey, we're looking to repeal the gas tax. That's kind of a buzzword type stuff that we're talking about now. Once we get a tax and start collecting that money, it's hard to turn back because quite frankly, MoDOT is doing some pretty great things right now, and if you look at the way MoDOT and the things that MoDOT have been able to do, we went from like 42nd in bridges needing repair in the state of Missouri down to number 11. So they have really done a bang-up job on getting a lot of good things done. I think some of that is with the taxes. Nobody's really talking about repealing the taxes, so a question like that, you know, is more hypotheticals, I think, right now than anything.
Thanks for your response, Representative Marquardt. And now the question to you, Representative Simmons.
This gas tax actually came before us when I was actually in the legislature, and I voted against that gas tax. I voted for the repeal the very next year because of the way that it was done. MoDOT and the people that presented it, it was actually our Senator Schatz, tried to fool the people. Kyle mentioned the smoke and mirrors. Let me give you some detail about that. There's a rule in Missouri dealing with, hold on.
Yeah,
Can we just swap?
actually,
Anyway.
great, sorry about
So
that.
there's a rule in Missouri called the Hancock Amendment. Anytime there's a revenue increase of $50 million, you the people have to vote on that. And so there would have been a huge increase into the billions of dollars with this gas tax increase. But they put this little rebate, little clown show into it. And so that 100% of you that put your receipts in and send it into the state once a year, and 100% of that came back, that's how they got it below that $50 million threshold. So they fooled the people, and that's how they were able to bypass that Hancock Amendment issue, which is why I voted no. So when the bill was passed, dirty little secret, MoDOT isn't doing what they're supposed to do, because the very first thing MoDOT did after that bill was passed is they gave everybody in MoDOT a pay raise. Every single one of them. That was never discussed in committee, never discussed on the floor of the House, never discussed in the Senate. Nothing was ever discussed. They were talking about roads and bridges as a priority, and that is a priority. But MoDOT, they also fooled us there. The very first thing they did, and the state of Missouri actually sued them because of that. Not that saying some of the people in MoDOT deserve a raise. I'm sure some of them do, but not everybody. So again, that's your government not at work. That's your government not being accountable. I try to make them accountable with that repeal. The thing with transportation is priorities. When I was there, we went through the regular budget process, and you can do that. There's money there, and Highway AD between St. Clair and Union, there was a bridge replacement, and we actually allocated over $50 million for various priority bridges around the state. And they know what those priorities are, and we're able to not raise taxes, get that bridge replaced in my district in 2019 through the regular budget process. That's what we have to do, is prioritize where we need to spend our money so that the taxes don't go higher for everyday Missourians.
Mr. Simmons, an issue raised by Governor Parson as well as the gubernatorial candidates is the ownership of farmland in Missouri by foreign-based entities. For example, Smithfield Foods, the largest pork producer in the United States, is owned by the Chinese multinational company WH Group. What is your stance on this issue?
No ownership, not ever, and if there is ownership right now, we have to find ways to disinvest them from that because it is a danger to national security, it's a danger to state security, and it's been a stealthy thing that, thank God, we finally got some exposure to it, and maybe people before us were asleep at the wheel in the executive section of our state government allowing for those things to happen. But you've probably seen the maps of where these investments and where these farms and where these operations are had and how close they are to a lot of the military operations and military installations we have in Missouri. We have a tremendous amount of military installations and people that work for the military and do great work in protecting us and being part of the military industrial complex to help us. But we know what China does. We see what they do with the spy balloon that flew over us. I took a picture outside my office and couldn't believe I saw that white dot balloon flying over Franklin County. We know what China is. It's a communist Chinese party. They do things stealthily. They do things through back channels. They do things through front organizations. We're finally exposing that to it. I know there's a big battle royale on the governor's side of things, but I'm in favor of that. Whatever legislation we need to do to curtail that, to disinvest that, and make sure that we're not doing the wrong thing and getting sued by that, but find a way to incentivize them to disincentivize that ownership because we need to find different ways, because they're an enemy of the state. It's different if Ireland was owning it or some other country, but definitely the high list of North Korea, Russia, Iran, China, those kinds of groups, a lot more attention needs to be that, and that's going to be a zero threshold for any kind of, not just agricultural purposes, but any kind of business purposes, because the CCP is always doing things nefariously, and they're smart, but we got to be smarter than them.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Marquardt, your question?
Thank you. Yeah, so I actually sit on the committee that addresses this in Jefferson City, the Special Committee on Homeland Security, and we've addressed this. It's sailed through the House, or sailed through our committee, sails through the House. Nobody really wants Chinese or foreign entities to own property. Again, this is the kind of stuff that is red meat up there. You know, everybody's for not having the Chinese own stuff. Well, heck no, you don't want them near the government installations and things. I mean, this is an easy question, easy answer. We're taking care of it there in Jeff City, and if we could get the Senate to do a little bit of something, you know, we'd actually get it across the finish line, and the governor could sign that. Hopefully, with the changes that are going to be happening in the Senate and in the legislature and stuff, we'll have more sensible people up there, not obstructionists, that'll be able to, you know, get this kind of stuff done. I mean, it's just basically that simple.
All right, the next question is, the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services reported 1,942 deaths from drug overdoses in 2023. As a policymaker, what do you believe should be done to address and reduce those numbers?
All right, great. Yeah, this is kind of right down my alley. This is what I've been doing for the last 35 years. I was actually the commander of our drug and crime control division in the state. You know, we need a combination of answers. Of course, enforcement is the big answer. Enforcement is the number one thing. That's what you would think. Actually, education of the kids is the number one thing. We need parents to step up and take care of their kids and keep them out of trouble. That's the first thing. But as a policymaker, you know, we have to increase enforcement. We can increase the fines, increase the penalties for the use of drugs, and we've been doing those things for years and years, and things ebb and flow. You know, we had methamphetamine deaths like crazy, and then we took care of that. Before that, we had LSD. You know, coming back to LSD, fentanyl, cocaine now. Kind of a new thing, I say, and new to me because I'm an old timer. But drug courts actually, those are effective and they work. So if we could continue to support the drug courts in the state, and you really help those people that are in need, and they have to want the help. But once they get into a drug court program, I tell you, it's kind of amazing. You know, I don't know what the recidivism aspects of that are, but they are far, far lower than throwing somebody in jail and letting them sit there and rot, and then when they get out, you know, putting them right back in the same environment that they came out of. So it's a combination of education, enforcement, prosecution, and drug courts support after it.
And yeah, same question to you, Mr. Simmons.
Yeah, so it's a sad state of affairs when this happens, and I know some people that have gone through this and the families that they leave behind. Couple things on this. Our southern border, a lot of these drugs are coming in and getting up to Missouri, up I-44. We know how open our southern border is. There's nefarious people, there's criminals coming through, there's people coming in for the wrong reason. We also know there's drugs. Our cartels, supported by China, are just poisoning our citizens. And so part of the overdose is actually drug poisoning. It's not even an overdose. They're taking something they think is safe, or something that's a different kind of drug, and in actuality it's laced with something that kills them in an instant. So the southern border is an issue that will actually help the drug overdoses as part of that. So we need to make sure we're doing things at a national level, but even the state level. I called for, long before the governor, to send down some Missouri Missouri National Guard to help the southern border, help a rotation of other states to help the people down there doing the hard work to try to protect our border, and we also need the national people in Congress to act on that. I've talked to Judge Persky about these drug courts, and they are effective. They're very important, and we need to expand more of that because there's a lot of success with it, and it's been done around the country. We'll keep fine-tuning what's good about that, but there is a lot of success rate with that. And then we also have to make sure we have better mental health for our citizens. I like to see some regional mental health centers developed, built. I think that would be a great way to help people, whether it be the suicide rates going up or the overdose. That could be something that I think we need to focus on. I think that will actually lessen some of the strain on our social services if we're able to provide mental health, because we see, some of these sad situations. They always talk about the mental health state of someone that does some dastardly deed in killing some people, for example, and it's mental health that they need support with.
Our next question is to you, Mr. Simmons. What do you believe the legislature can do to address illegal immigration in Missouri?
Super important, probably one of the number one issues besides the economy when I talk to people at the door. The Supreme Court recently ruled on a Texas case that made sure that Texas could actually address the immigration issues as a sovereign state. And we need to do the same thing in Missouri and making sure that we're prosecuting and making sure we're deporting any kind of illegal immigrants that are coming through. So it's not just a federal issue and the federal way to do it, because they're actually sleeping at the wheel. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing catch and release and other kinds of things. At least one administration is doing it. Let's hope for a different administration in November. But beyond that, we got to make sure there's no magnet attraction for why they're coming to United States or Missouri in the first place. What do I mean by that? No free phones, no jobs, no free health care, no hotels, none of that, okay? We've got to take care of our veterans and people that are in need locally. We're not getting those kinds of things. Also, the illegal immigrants that come into our state, they're lowering the wages for all of us. They're hurting the union membership wages because they're taking jobs at lower wages, suppressing the overall wage level where those wages should be going up naturally for all of us to actually improve our lives in the middle class. So they're suppressing that, and they're putting a strain on our social services. They're putting a strain in our school systems when they come in. They're putting a strain in our health care, in the hospitals, in the emergency rooms. They're putting a strain on law enforcement. And so we've got to make sure we're doing what we can as a state, send more troops down through there, but make sure that also they're not able to vote and disincentivize them to do anything that they think they can do because they're not citizens. If you're not a citizen, you don't get the benefits, and hopefully national level of making sure they return back to their homes and deporting them, or doing a much better job at the border itself, or what they call the Remain in Mexico policy, where as they go through a process of listening about their case, they're staying in Mexico before they come to the United States. It's not a release and come back for some court date later. So it's got to be comprehensive, but we've done it. We need leadership at the national level, and I'm ready to provide that in the State House.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Mr. Marquardt, the question is yours.
Thank you again. Again, I have been enforcing border policy for 35 years. When I was chasing taillights, I'd stop pickup trucks with 20 Mexicans laying side by side, being smuggled into the United States. I have actually been one of the people that have participated in deporting the illegal aliens and Mexicans. What's going on right now coming across the border, we have Venezuelans coming across the border as well. And those people are brutal. Those people are really, really dangerous. And I tell you what, if we don't find these people and deport them, we're going to be in trouble in the long run. And talking about what can we do as Missourians to help enforce that, well, back in 2012 when I was running, well, probably 2011, when I was running the Division of Drug and Crime Control, I took 18 of our investigators and sent them out to South Carolina for I think it was about a 3-week training so that they could go through ICE training to become federal or deputized by the feds, by ICE. So we went through I think it was called 847G training so that they could be Title 19 certified. And the reason for that was because they could then fill out the paperwork to actually deport these people. What we were having trouble with is, I'd stop those cars out on I-70 back in the late 80s, and we'd call Sal with ICE, he'd come and interview them and kick them loose. It was a problem then, it still is a problem. Only right now, it's a much worse problem, and we can assist those federal agencies by becoming deputized and sending them back. And I've been doing that since at least 2011.
Thanks, Representative Markwart. The next question we've got is, in most rankings of public schools, Missouri ranks in the bottom half among states. In the last legislative session, the Missouri General Assembly passed a sweeping education bill that included an expansion of school choice measures and increases in the minimum salaries for teachers to $40,000. Do you believe this bill will do enough to improve Missouri's education system? If not, what additional measures would you support?
That bill was Senate Bill 727, and I actually voted against that bill, and I'm hearing a lot of grief about, oh, I'm not for teachers, raising teachers' salaries. The thing with that bill is, it raised the minimum teacher salary to $40,000. That bill is gonna cost the state $400 million. It's gonna be $400 million extra price tag on the state budget. But the thing is, what that bill does is it raises the minimum teacher salary. It doesn't do anything about the gap between the 1-year teacher and the 3-year teacher or the 5-year teacher. So that's gonna cause issues there. And how the state funded that, or is funding that salary increase is by a grant. And right now the state's got all kinds of money because of ARPA. You know, the federal government's been sending us money like it's candy, and we've been spending it, you know, like banshees. But the issue that we have is when the money runs out from this grant, then the local school districts are going to get stuck with that higher cost for teachers and for students. And what's going to happen is, since the state won't have the money, the local school districts are going to have to come up with the money. Now in Washington, the school district, we already pay our students over $40,000, our first-year teachers over $40,000. The problem's going to come in New Haven. When New Haven, when they don't get their money, they're going to be suffering. And where do they get that money? The local school. So the local people are going to end up having to come up with that money, and probably a tax increase or something. I just don't feel like that the state should be telling the local school districts how to spend their money and how to pay their teachers.
Second question to you, Representative Simmons.
Yeah, that's an important bill, that's Senate Bill 727, because my opponent was the only one in this area to vote against it. All the other state reps in Franklin County and all the areas around Franklin County supported that measure because it was a good bill. Our state senator, Ben Brown, supported that bill because of the good things that it did. It talked about school choice measures. We have to look at school reform through the lens of the student, not through the lens of the administration state, not through the lens of the teacher unions in Washington, D.C. What is best for the student? And it may not actually be the right fit where they are. They have to live in a certain area because of a job situation. If another choice, other options, whether it be homeschooling, whether it be a hybrid where they're completely at home through the computer, still as a public school student, that's what we need to expand on. And so there was incentive in a private credit system, a tax credit system, to expand this operation called Missouri Scholars, where people could access as scholarships money to do just that, whether to hire a teacher, or hire someone that could do a tutoring, or hire some equipment or a computer or something to help these students be better at their education. So that's what we need to do. And the idea that we weren't able to spend an extra $400 million, every year the budget is renewed, and we start anew, and we increase that budget a little bit for DESE and all the other state departments. And the idea that we couldn't come up with $400 million the next year, the state budget, the last year that I was there, was $37 billion. The very next year, my opponent approved a $53 billion budget. They found $16 billion pretty easily, and now they're complaining about $400 million for our students and for our teachers. And then the very next year, they approved a $51 billion budget. So they found $1 billion then, and now they're coming with an excuse that you can't come up with $400 million year after year. The state money will come, the local tax revenue will actually stay low because more of that bucket money will come from the state, and actually our property taxes can remain where they are at because the state's able to give more of that money to the school districts.
Thank you. Our final question this evening will go to Mr. Simmons. In the Missouri Assembly's 2024 session, a record low 28 non-budget bills were passed despite a Republican supermajority. How do you plan to work with your Republican colleagues in the future to facilitate the passage of more legislation?
I'll just do what I always did. The 4 years I was there, I have a good long record I mentioned in my opening. I've got brochures here to do the list. I worked with the legislature. I led the legislature on items. I co-sponsored the pro-life bill. I co-sponsored Second Amendment bills. I was the lead sponsor in the election integrity bill. So I was able to do the hard work from the get-go. I didn't wait my freshman year to wait for my sophomore year. I hit the ground running as a freshman with that. And the idea, I don't know if it was President Reagan that said the longer the legislature is in session, the more our rights are at stake. So the idea that we didn't get a lot of things passed, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm a small government Republican. I want limited government. There probably was some good things that should have gotten done because there are personalities that get up there. But I was able to fight through all that, get legislation passed, work through the different personalities that are there, both Democrat and Senate, both the Senate and the House, and both Democrats and Republicans. And I've got that proven record. I've got a lot of accomplishments. You can go to my website, johnsimmons.org, and you'll see some of the things that I did there and things that I proposed for. But it just takes leadership. I showed leadership from the get-go, and I was happy to do that, and people look to me to work on the legislation, and it's hard work, but you got to go ahead and make sure you're doing the hard work, and you're not playing cornhole in the hallways when the legislation's up in the House, and you're missing votes because you're playing games in the hallways. You're there to work. I'll there to work. I'll show leadership. People look to me. And when I get back, I'll be that leader that people expect.
So to answer that question real quickly, we got 28 bills passed because of the nonsense going on in the Senate and those obstructionists, those what I call crazy senators that wouldn't let anything go through. Going back to one of the bills that we did get passed was Senate Bill 727. Apparently, not everybody on this stage is really understanding what that bill does. We talk about the Missouri scholars. Yeah, that sounds great. Vouchers for students so that they can send their kids to maybe private schools or something like that. I spent well over $100,000 sending my kids to private schools. But when you get up to Jeff City and they start telling you, hey, we'll give you this money, one thing that's attached to that money is if you take a kid in that program, they have a specific test administered by the state that you must take. Now, what that does in my mind is, if you're going to have to take a state test, the state's going to have to, or you're going to have a curriculum to make that, make your kids available or educated enough to do well on that test. Another thing on this 727 bill, while I've been up there, 2 times dirty politics has been played on me. Both times are with this education bill. I had a bill that I was trying to get through a committee. It got heard in committee, stalled. I went to that committee chairman and I said, hey, what about my workers' comp bill for volunteer firefighters? And he says, well, where do you stand on the education bill? I said, I'm not for the education bill. That's not what we're talking about. He tells me, if you change your vote on the education bill, then I'll get your bill through the House and I'll get your bill through the Senate. I don't play those games. That's ridiculous.
Thank you. We will now move into the closing statements. This evening we will begin closing statements with Mr. Simmons.
Thanks for listening. Again, go to johnsimmons.org for more information on my candidacy. I want to set the record straight because my opponent is slandering me on the radio, in the newspaper, and now in the mail. Some of you may have seen ads in print or on the airwaves in opposition to my opponent. He falsely accuses me of being connected to those ads. I am not, and he knows that. Yet he still pushes the lie that it's my campaign doing it. It is not. These ads are from independent third-party groups that use their free political speech rights advocating for or against issues or candidates. I have nothing to do with these ads. My campaign has nothing to do with these ads or anyone on my campaign. There's no communication, no coordination, no financial support, no knowledge. I mean, they even put it on the disclaimer. We've all received these. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. And we see them, whether it's the governor's race, a congressional race, secretary of state race. There's these groups that put out these ads. But it's not me, it's not my campaign, and he knows it, but yet he directly does dirty politics with his ads, saying that it's coming from my campaign, and it's not. His issue should be with those advocacy groups, not with me. Thank you for letting me set the record straight. I ask for your vote, either now through August 6th, because elections, actually voting is open, no excuse open today. Thank you.
Well, if you take a look at it, the Nova PAC is formed by John Simmons for John Simmons' campaign. So he doesn't have anything to do with it. Surprise, surprise. I'm not going there. I'm running for re-election because I have more things to accomplish in Jefferson City and in District 109. I have a whole list. Workers' comp bill for the volunteer firefighters. I want to work on making sure that we do a single issue bills in Jeff City. That'll get stuff done. Insurance is required for all vehicles operating on the highway. I have a bill to make that happen. I want to figure out if the black vulture, what can we do about the black vulture problem that the farmers are having? Let's get that done. Let's get things done in Jeff City. I want to bring the intoxicating cannabinoid, the Delta 8, Delta 9, I want them to have regulation. Actually, that industry has come to me and asked me to regulate them. I'm not going to let it get into the marijuana monopoly to do those. As your state rep, I get calls from constituents every day, and I want to be able to assist in making things better for them and the entire community. Working with the local city administrations in both Washington and New Haven, working with the Chamber of Commerce in those areas, working with the schools and community organizations, working with the underprivileged and the people with disabilities, especially like at Impact. The job is so vast. I want to make a positive difference in our communities' lives by serving as your state representative, continuing to serve as your state representative, and I want to make a positive difference, and I can make a positive difference. I want to help our community. I put people before politics. I want to maintain honesty and integrity in the Capitol and in District 119. Please vote for me, Kyle Marquardt, on the Republican ballot, the August 6th primary election. And in reality, early no excuse voting started today, so if you can make it over to Union, you can vote for me tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. All right, gentlemen, we will go ahead and begin with the opening statements. We'll begin our first opening statement with our incumbent, Mr. Bowler.
Good evening. Thanks for being here, ladies and gentlemen, and family and friends. My name is Todd Bullen, and I'm honored to be here tonight as a candidate for the 1st District Franklin County Commissioner. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to introduce myself. I have a lifelong connection to Franklin County, raised with values of hard work, community involvement. I grew up working on my father's local farm and the family feed store. These experiences instilled in me the principles that have guided my 30-year career in commercial residential property management, giving me a profound understanding of the diverse needs of our residents and businesses. My public service record is equally important to me. I have had the privilege of serving on both the Washington and Franklin County Planning and Zoning Committee, Washington City Council, the Bank of Washington's Advisory Board, and coaching youth football. For the past 6 years, I have been your 1st District Franklin County Commissioner. During my tenure, I had the focus on fiscal responsibility and common sense government. Notably, I efficiently managed $21 million in ARPA funds during the COVID-19 pandemic, ensuring we spent the money wisely. I'm not just about maintaining the status quo. I am a forward thinker dedicated to improving our county's future. I have streamlined departments to reduce overhead costs and improve efficiency. Looking ahead, I am committed to enhancing our emergency response system to address the rising costs of our current system. I am a man of integrity, committed to protecting and improving Franklin County. With hard work, fiscal responsibility, no nonsense, common sense. With your support, I continue to make significant improvements. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to continued opportunity to serve you as First District Commissioner.
Mr. Overschmidt?
Good evening. Am I on?
You're on.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here this evening and giving me this opportunity to give you my ideas. My name is Paul Overschmidt, born and raised right here in Washington, Missouri. Local guy, married a local girl, Diane Overschmidt. We've been married for 4 years. Have 2 children, 2 sons, John and his wife Delia, Mark and his wife Alina, and 2 grandchildren. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. I've owned a business here in Washington for 40 years, several businesses actually, and 2 farms, local farms, and a lot of different properties, and commercial and residential both. I think I can bring some fiscal responsibility to the Commissioner's office. I've talked to a lot of people in the last several months as I've been campaigning that don't like what's going on in the county, money that's being spent, the way it's being spent, and I think I can do a good job, a better job at overseeing things, bring some fiscal responsibility to the table. Got a few highlights that I'd like to make points about: the highway department, the IT department, the new property they bought out on Highway 50 for the highway department. I don't like that idea. A lot of different things that we can go over here, but thank you for being here this evening and giving me a time to answer a few questions. Thank you.
What issues that impact Franklin County residents are a priority for you? How will you support ongoing efforts to address these issues?
Well, one of the main things I'm worried about is our 911 emergency center. How we fund that at this time is landline. And of course, everybody knows how many people in here have a landline. And we've even increased the tax from 12% to 15%. But the money still isn't there. We need to figure out a way how to shore up financially as opposed to just taking money out of the general revenue every year for this purpose. 10 years ago, they had a committee that got together and talked about what needed to be done, how they could do it, but it just kind of died, obviously. I don't know the answers, but the next 4 years, that's what I want to work on and figure out how to support 911. You know, when you need it, and that's really an important thing to have. Thank you.
And same question to you, Mr. Overschmidt.
Priorities for me are the IT system. I know that's not a very exciting thing to talk about, but our current IT system for the county is antiquated. It's been around for a long time. We've been spending a lot of money on it over the last few years, and we've jumped around from one contractor to another contractor and spent a lot of money. We're still nowhere. Went back and we've got a subcontractor that worked for the first company putting Band-Aids on the system right now to try to keep it intact. Spending $190,000 a year doing that. So that's one item. The roads, we're trying to get all the roads asphalted. I know that's an issue. We've got a deadline on that, but that doesn't mean we do them incorrectly. Just getting them black is not the answer. We've got to get them built right. They've got to be smooth before the asphalt goes on, and the shoulders have to be built correctly, so when a trash truck drives along, gets on the shoulder, it doesn't just ruin the road, and we have to come back and repair that. So that's an issue. Our debt is a huge issue for me. $25 million in debt. We need to tighten our belts a little bit, get that debt paid down. Excuse me. Doesn't mean to cut services. We still have to continue to grow, have a good county, good services, and highlight some of the jewels of the county, I like to call them. Mercy Hospital, the airport, and East Central College. So those are some of my issues. And the debt's a big one. We need to stop the lawsuits. We've got lawsuits every time we turn around. We need to put that all to rest. Thank you.
Mr. Overschmidt, this next question is to you first. In 2023, a Missouri law was enacted that allows counties to pass ordinances to freeze property taxes for seniors. Do you support this measure? If so, how do you respond to political subdivisions that will be directly impacted by the loss of revenue?
Yes, I thank you for that question. Yes, I do agree with freezing the property taxes. I think it's a good idea for senior citizens on a fixed budget to have their taxes frozen. That doesn't mean eliminate the taxes at all. It just means they don't continue to go up. So I don't think it's gonna be a big drain. Taxes seems like they always go up anyway, but I'm all for freezing the property taxes for our senior citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Boland, the question to you.
Yes, thanks. Yes, I support it. We have supported it in the county. We were waiting for the bill to come and be cleaned up at the time. There were so many variables in it, nobody knew what really needed to be done or how you were gonna not tax or tax the senior people. There's, of course, gonna be some loss, but our revenue in the county is growing constantly and over things. The property values will still be rising, I'm sure of that. At least it seems that way anyway. So I don't think in a major loss, or I don't think there's gonna be major loss in the revenue there. I think we can find other ways of revenue if need be for what to help the seniors to save some money on their properties.
Okay, next question for Commissioner Boland. Recently, the city of Union and Franklin County canceled a plan to build a roundabout and expressway to alleviate traffic on Highway 47. What do you believe should be done to address the traffic issues along Highway 47 in Franklin County?
Well, the reason we canceled it was because MoDOT was having issues. The other thing, there was property owners that we were not being able to get the property at a value that the county could, I guess, afford. The county provided $2 million immediately to help get the roundabout. The county wants the roundabout. We email and talk to MoDOT, call MoDOT engineers and everything daily, weekly, and try to get them to make sure that the process is moving forward. Franklin County and Union, of course, it was also Union, it was gonna be financially, they could not do it at what it was gonna cost. That's the reason Union dropped out. But yes, Franklin County wants 47 improved.
And same question to you, Mr. Overschmidt.
Yes, I like the idea of the 47 expressway and the widening of 47 and the roundabout. I think it's a good deal. I think everybody wants that. The problem is the state's got most of the money. You know, it's an expensive proposition, and that's always the case. It's always about the money. So I think we just need to continue to work very closely with the state because that's where the deeper pockets are. We can contribute money to it in a lot of different ways. Might be some ARPA funds available there. I'm not sure about that. But the state's the real answer to it, in my opinion. Work closely with the state.
Mr. Overschmidt, many candidates during this election cycle are campaigning on fiscal responsibility and fiscal conservatism. What do these terms mean to you in practice?
Fiscal conservatism, money management, that's what it's all about. Again, it's all about the money. So I think I can bring some fiscal management to the commission. We've got to get the best bang for the dollar on every project we do, go out for bids on everything we do. No more good old boy system. we get bids, we get the best price we can, and conserve money where we can, because we gotta tighten up our belts a little bit and try to get the debt paid down. That's the bottom line.
Mr. Boland, the question to you.
Yes, fiscal responsibility. When I took office in 2018, we just started a sheriff's department building project. It was a $30 million project. The money was voted on for Prop P. The citizens voted to do this. It was a $30 million project, like I said. We were on budget, on time, without change orders. Fiscal responsibility, spend the money like it's your own. The other thing I have done is I have put departments together, the building department, planning and zoning department together, to work together, and we don't have as many people there at this time. The other thing, it's really a small deal, but, I was talking about landlines. We email and do everything at the county by that. We probably had 50 landlines we didn't use anymore. We eliminated landlines even. We do everything we possibly can to save money. Cars that we're not using, we got rid of cars. We're doing everything. We do go out for bid on everything we have. We cannot purchase we can purchase up to $12,000. We do not need a bid on that. But everything else is out to bid and up front.
So the next question, again for Commissioner Boland. In Missouri, counties with more than 85,000 residents are allowed to adopt a charter form of government which provides a degree of home rule and more representation. If there is another effort to create a charter form of government in Franklin County, would you support it?
My understanding, I think there's 2 counties in Missouri out of the 114 counties that are charters. Would I support it? I would put it to a vote. I'm not just the only one that's gonna choose that one. So it would have to definitely be up to a vote from the county.
And same question to you, Mr. Overschmidt.
Very possibly. I think the charter government is a more expensive government, so there's a lot more people involved in it, more expense. I wouldn't necessarily be against that. It's a possibility, but again, it would have to be put to a vote. The county would have to decide that on their own. As a three-person commission works great, as long as we got good commissioners that are committed and doing a good job. I don't see anything wrong with that. But it's always a possibility of I would be open to the idea. If the county wants it, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Mr. Overschmidt, if elected, how do you believe county commissioners should engage the public?
Well, I'd say be available on a daily basis, have the meetings open. Meetings behind closed doors tend to be things happen that everybody doesn't know about. So I think meetings need to be wide open to the public. And I'll give you my cell number. If I'm elected, I'll be available every day, 7 days a week.
Thank you. Mr. Boland, the question to you.
Well, meetings are public. We have to post them 24 hours in advance. So we hold meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then of course available throughout the week. I have a cell phone, email also. I think we need to be out in public. We need to be active in community events. And I think the other thing that we really need to work on, I think we need to get the younger adults and the kids involved in government. We don't have young people over at the government facilities. So we need to maybe go to the schools and educate the kids and get them involved and bring them to the county and explain to them that this is their community and we need them to be involved and be active in the community.
Okay, next question, again for Commissioner Boland. There are some residents of Franklin County without access to high-speed internet. In other cases, access is available but unaffordable. With the importance of internet access today for everything from applying for jobs to telehealth, how will you work with local, state, and national leaders to address this issue?
Well, that's a good question, because I don't have internet. And I've been over at the county for 6 years, talking and screaming and everything else, and everybody would come in and say something, and they said, well, you know, we can get you internet. And I'd pull the map up and I go, can you get it there? Well, yeah, if you got a couple $1 million, we can get it there. So it still comes down to just money. And it's private companies that own it. We as a county, as the states and that, we don't have the money or the facilities to do it. So yeah, I think it would be great. I would like it, but that's where it's at for me. I don't think we can just go out and demand people to spend the money. I can only imagine what it would cost us if somebody would run me internet.
And same question to you, Mr. Overschmidt.
I think Todd's on the mark there. It's nice, everybody needs to have internet. It's necessary for just about everything we're doing in life, but it's all about the money. So, you know, I'd work with every entity, I'm open to any idea, everything we can do to get internet across the board, but it is all about the money.
Mr. Overschmidt, what are your thoughts about using tax abatements and other tax incentives by Franklin County to attract new businesses and stimulate economic growth?
Well, I'm not much in favor of that. I like the idea. We're a growing community. There's always going to be exceptions to it, so I don't want to say just blanketly that I'm not, that I'm opposed to that. But we're a growing county. People want to come here. People want to be in Franklin County. I don't think there's any reason to give them a break to come here. You know, we give them a tax break, and it's, you know, could be other strings attached to that, so I'm not necessarily for that, but I would not say blanketly that we can't do it. There's always going to be an exception.
Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Boland, your question?
Yes. I've been over at the county for 6 years, and not at any time has anybody approached us for a tax incentive. Of course, there's plenty of tax incentives in the cities, Washington, Union, they give them, I understand that. In the corridor of the Pacific area, we have now expanded the Brush Creek Sewer District so we can have growth in that area. We have McBride is proposing 188 homes in that area. Now that we have the sewer system working there, they didn't come to us and ask for a tax incentive. I'm not opposed to it. If somebody would come and really sell us and tell us and prove maybe, you know, 3 years, 5 years down the road, and then give them a break after they said, yeah, we'll employ 500 people and they get to that number, then I would probably be for it of some sort.
Okay, and then this question is also for Commissioner Boland. University of Missouri Extension in Franklin County, which is partly funded by the County Commission, strives to positively impact our community by providing programming and resources. Currently, Franklin County has the largest 4-H enrollment in the state. Considering this high level of interest, would you be open to considering an increase in county funding for the Franklin County MU Extension?
Right now, we give the county extension $150,000 a year out of the county budget. By state statute, we only have to give them $10,000. So it's pretty hard to do when you got a coach at the zoo making $5 million a year. I think maybe they could cut him back $1 million or so and send this out. Do I think 4-H and the program is important? I think it's vitally important. Have 400 plus kids in that program, I think it's fantastic. But at the same time, I'm taking $140,000 out of the county government that maybe I could give people raises to keep the people in the county. So that's a tough one for me. But I do support them, and I think it's a great organization.
And same question to Mr. Overschmidt.
I think the Missouri Extension Center is vitally important. I think it's serves a very, you know, just on all functions, a 4-H, and I would be for a little increase in their budget. I've talked to some of those folks, and they serve a lot of important people in the county, and although I'm not a spendthrift, I would not be opposed to a little increase in the budget for the Missouri Extension Center. I think it's very important.
Our final question for the commissioners this evening will go to Mr. Overschmidt. County commissioners have a big workload encompassing everything from formulating the budget and supervising county departments to representing the county on many local and regional councils. How will you prioritize this workload?
Thank you for that question. This is a big job. It's a full-time position, in my opinion. I know it's, as far as the budget's concerned, it's a part-time position, but I think it requires full-time attention. If I'm elected, I will be a full-time commissioner. I'll be on the job every day, and I think that's critical to the way this county is growing and everything that's going on, the size of our budget. It's a big job. So I think it's a full-time position, and that's gonna be my easiest answer right there.
Mr. Rowland, your question?
First of all, it is a full-time job, and I am available 7 days a week. I guess the best thing that I've learned is, in my years, is that I manage my time well. So, also, you know, doing the budget, you start in mid-August, and then September, early November, you have proposals of the budget. In December, then the budget is normally, at that time, it has to be finalized. So you're set up at meetings the whole time. Also, we're implementing new contracts, negotiating new contracts of whatever, you know, it may be, from the highway department to buying equipment. Our executive secretary, she is fantastic. She gets everything lined up, emails to you, text to you, whatever it may need. So to prioritize the workload, it took me 6 months to realize what the workload was and how to prioritize that. So I've had the experience, and I've accomplished that, and I am available, like I said, it is, you know, 24/7 if need be. On the way here, I was taking a phone call about something. You know, and we have 100,000 residents, and each phone call is important, and I return each and every phone call, because that phone call right then and there is the most important thing to that person.
Thank you. We will now move into your closing statements. Mr. Overschmidt will start with the closing statements this evening.
Well, again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight and giving me an opportunity to talk to you and get my name out there a little bit, let you know who I am and what I'm all about. If you're not satisfied with the way the county's running right now, if you want some change, vote for me. I'll be on the job every day. I'll bring some conservative money management to the commission. That's my big priority. The debt's a big thing, the highway department. I want to go back to one thing about the highway department. We didn't get asked a question about that. We got a big deal going on out on Highway 50, new highway department shed being built. Don't need it, in my opinion, number one. We've got 2 sheds now. We're gonna put one in the middle and get rid of those 2. I think that's just a bad idea. It's gonna be more driving for every piece of equipment that moves. And we've got a lot of money in it. And I don't think we did a feasibility study on it before they jumped into this. And now we've got that project going on, and we're trying to get it leveled out to where we can build on it. So it's just been I think, a bad deal from the get-go, and I just want to get that out there. If you're tired of the status quo, vote for Paul Overschmidt. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes. Well, the highway shed, since he brought that up, you know, the positive consideration for combining the highway department east and west garage facilities are a substantial improvement to deploy the manpower. All employees are available pool instead of 30 here and 30 there. Centralized location of unique equipment, chip, spreader, bucket truck, limb grinder, this will all be in one spot. So if we need it from the east to the west, they don't have to move it around. Duplicate of fixed asset is reduced. 1 fueling facility instead of 2. 1 set of utility beds. 1 property to maintain. Improve control of site for safety and security. New site with gates and partial fencing. Improve administrative control of workforce. I think that's very important. The new facility will be energy efficient, eliminating the 2 old facilities. No, we didn't do a feasibility study. Did you want me to spend $100,000 to say, well, that's probably what we need? I'm not on that bandwagon. I think the highway department is doing a fantastic job. Our roads, we do to MoDOT standards. We don't just go out and blacktop the roads. So that's another thing. The highway department does a fantastic job. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, tbolin@franklinmo.gov, or my cell number is 636-262-6050. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending. Like I said, this will all be on YouTube and posted on social media in the next couple days. I hope this was an informative forum for everyone, and we hope to do more of it in the future. Thank you so much.